Okay, welcome to Crypto News and Investigative Reports. I'm glad that you're able to join us today. It's some great news. I want to say thank you to all of our friends out there at social media land over in YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Thank you for all of those that are working hard to bring people this blockchain cryptocurrency digital asset revolution. It's important that the public gets to know. Glad that we got the internet to help take us through this humongous step into transforming from the fiat currency into a digital asset currency. That's a huge transition, and it's magnanimous, and I'm glad that that we have the internet to help us to get through this one. All right, so thank you to all of our friends that are out there putting this information out here on YouTube. We don't get paid. I know at least I don't get paid, but try to rush in between working and whatever we're doing, we try to make videos. All right, so thank you very much first. And secondly, I'd like to say if you're not subscribed, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to our YouTube page just by hitting that subscribe button, as well as hit the little bell there so you can get an alert every time we put up another video. Appreciate that. And once again, hey, thank you all for watching. And oh, third thing is that please leave your comments. Your comments have been really helpful. They're starting to leave some great comments, in-depth comments. I really appreciate the comments more than just, they're really important because they keep me going and keep me digging. So I appreciate that. All right, let's get started. Let's get into it. With that being said, let's find out. Hey, here's a question, man. The most pinnacle process to the cryptocurrency revolution is whether the central banks are going to either develop their own cryptocurrency, or are they going to partner or coexist with another cryptocurrency. There's a whole other number of things being to discuss. There's going to be some big news, some more big news coming out this month about policy, about regulation, about the IMF, about the American Central Bank, which is the Federal Reserve, and which about other central banks from other countries. There's going to be some big news coming up here pretty soon, and I'm going to keep my head to the wheel and keep grinding out and seeing what we can get on this question. Let's take a look at the market right now. The market and Bitcoin's at $108 billion market cap. Ethereum's at $20 billion market cap. We got XRP at a $10 billion market cap. Even though you have this fluctuating news about Bitcoin yesterday, I think, or either the day before, it still has a dominance. It's still at $108 billion, and then you have EOS and Stellar rounding out the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, Litecoin is down in number 7. It's at $3 billion market cap. And it's interesting, we're talking about a total market cap of about $195 billion. But you know what? One day we're going to be talking, and that market cap is going to be $195 trillion, right? And Ripple is going to be number 1. Okay? All right. So with that being said, let's move into the central banks using Ripple XRP. And that's kind of what I'd like to see as a cryptocurrency enthusiast, is that I would love to see central banks use Ripple XRP. At this point, central banks are not announcing that they're using Ripple XRP. I'm sure we've been going over the news about Christine saying that she is definitely interested in Ripple XRP, that the digital currency XRP. And I think personally, my personal opinion is that XRP and the suite of things that comes along with XRP, even the fact that they're working on convergence, putting everything together would really look like that would really be the best thing for central banks. I want to also make sure that I'm saying, I think in my last video, I may have said, I made a couple of mistakes. One is I kept saying that 2018 instead of 2028 on that on the article, and so I want to apologize for that. And then the other thing, because it was a price prediction. It was a prediction about banks and when they were going to be, they could possibly be obsolete. It said by 2028 and not by 2018. I kept saying 2018. So some people hit me back and said, man, the banks are not going to be obsolete by the end of the year. But I do want to make a distinction between banks. When people say banks or a bank, you know, like I said before, Western Union is not a bank. American Express is not a bank. MoneyGram is not a bank. Okay? Those are not banks. Those are payment people. They make payments. Visa, not a bank. You can connect it, but it is not a bank. It could be a bank card, but it is not a bank. So that brings me to my next statement. My next statement is that you got to understand what payment providers are. Fortunately and gladly and thankfully that these people are all turning to Ripple. They're turning to XRP. And I make that distinction. They're turning to XRP, and they're going to be using. I can safely say, I think at this point, that XRapid, XCurrent, and XVIA from Ripple are the best in the business for payments. So I can make that distinction, and I can make that, and there's a lot of information out there to back that up. A lot of those people are already Ripple clients. A lot of payment providers are Ripple clients already. So with that being said, that moves me to my next statement about banks. Okay, so we know there's payment providers. Now banks, there's commercial banks. Commercial banks, like in America, is Wells Fargo. That's a commercial bank. Bank of America, that's a commercial bank. Chase, that's a commercial bank. Those are considered commercial banks. Commercial banks do not create money. Commercial banks exist or get money by either you cash your check and you deposit your money in the bank, or they get money from a central bank, which in America, our central bank is the Federal Reserve. That's where commercial banks will get money. They are lending. The central banks lend money to the commercial banks to lend to customers. So commercial banks do not create money. Commercial banks sell money to make money. They lend money to make money. They charge interest, and that's how they make money. They charge fees. That's how they make money. All right. So I want to make that clear because I keep hearing, you know, banks. Well, no, you got to be careful. There's distinction in banking. There's commercial banks, and then the next thing, the next step up is your central banks. So you got payment providers, the people that move money around. You have commercial banks who don't neither of those two create money, but then you have central banks. Central banks, that's who creates the money. And so if you've been watching any of my videos and checking out any of the news, you'll see that central banks are trying to develop two types of central bank digital currencies. All right. So central banks is where the money is made. Like I said, in America, it's our Federal Reserve. It sounds a little better than the central bank. And so with that, that's how money is being moved, or money is being made, or money is being created in America. All right. Now, and then I'll say this. The reserve currency of the world is the US dollar. All right. All right. So I just wanted to make that statement on at the beginning because I keep hearing banks. So there's central banks, there's commercial banks, and then there's payment providers. And that's how money gets moved around. And then, of course, there's what I want to talk about. There's the International Monetary Fund, and then there's a World Bank. But here's interesting. Central banks using Ripple XRP. And this article, it makes the distinction. Ripple has major partnerships with Western Union, which is not a bank. Western Union is not a central bank. Okay, it's a payment. Western Union confirmation that they will be using Ripple technology in a trial for transactions. Western Union is participating in a beta launch of XRapid, which everybody knows, a platform developed by Ripple to solve liquidity problems with cross-border payment. Everybody knows this. And I just want to make sure that everybody knows, because see, the article is saying at the top, central banks using Ripple XRP. Well, Western Union is not a central bank. All right. And then it says, it talks about XRapid is for payment providers and other financial institutions who want to minimize liquidity costs and also improve the customer experience. Payments into emerging markets often require pre-funded local currency accounts around the world. This makes liquidity costs high. XRapid dramatically lowers the capital requirement of liquidity, which is an awesome thing. I mean, so if you're a payment provider, you definitely want to use XRP and XRapid, that part of the, out here in the Silicon Valley, everything seems to be moving towards SAAS, and it's like a service provider. Actually, it's I was looking at a lot of other companies in the Bay that are turning into SAAS companies, and I got to give you what that means. I'm sorry about that. Hold on just a moment, folks, because that's a big term that's blowing up out here. Everybody's like, they're SAAS, they're SAAS, and that's like a software I'll get the term. Sorry, hold on just a moment. I got so much research here. I kept hearing that term yesterday at a conference. Well, anyway, I'll find it. Get that for you in a minute. Anyway, back to, I'll have that term for you. It's a service, a software service company. They provide a service. And what do you know, folks? I wrote it down so I can make sure that I tell you and right when I'm looking for it. Can't find it. Got too much going on. All right. Anyway, so let's go next to the Saudi Arabia. The Saudi Arabia Monetary Authority. It says the Central Bank of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the Saudi Arabia Monetary Authority, which is actually a central bank, has signed an agreement with Ripple to help banks in the KSA improve their payment using XCurrent. It doesn't say that they're going to be using XRP, which we all hope they use XRapid and XRP, but it says they're going to be using XCurrents. Banks of the KSA will use XCurrent to settle payments and out of the country instantaneously. The use of XCurrent in Saudi Arabia can radically shift on how banks in the KSA send money. Customers of these banks will experience faster, cheaper, and more transparent cross-border transactions. Saudi Arabia use of this technology will help fuel monetary momentum for blockchain both domestically and globally. And say they're saying they're going to use the XCurrent. It doesn't say they're going to use XRapid. All right, so that's pretty interesting. All right, so let's move on. Let's move to another thing that's in the news. Is this right here. This guy sent this to me because I'm always talking about the central bank, the International Monetary Fund, and the Federal Reserve, which is the Central Bank of America. Let's listen to, this is Christine. Everybody knows who she is by now if you watch my stuff. She's the director of IMF, and this is what she had. There's this big issue about SDRs, and these are SDRs. SDRs are special drawing rights, the World Money Plan, and this is a pretty interesting article. And it talks about when they held this meeting. No surprise. This came out in this was a year. This is a little more. This is more than a year old, but it does have some very interesting points about the SDRs, the World Money Plan. And I guess there was a meeting back then that nobody paid attention to. This said discuss. I'll read it for you. It says, no surprise, headlines were run, but an obscure meeting and a discreet report launch, exclusive signals for the next global economic crisis. The panel, which included 5 of the most elite global bankers, was held during the IMF spring meeting to discuss the special drawing rights, SDRs, and last year was their 50th anniversary. And on the surface, the panel was a snooze fest, but reading beyond the jargon offers critical takeaways. The discussion revealed that the global central banks are planning for a future crisis and how the IMF is orchestrating policy for financial bubbles, currency shocks, and institution failures. With the urgency of the financial elites, in the April 2017 Global Financial Stability Report, the IMF researchers targeted the U.S. corporate debt market and how the extreme changes in its equity market has left the global economy at risk. While the report may have been missed by major financial news outlets, it was enough to give major concern to those paying attention. Let's scroll up a little bit. Hopefully my computer won't go too slow and slow down. It says the IMF research report noted the U.S. corporate sector has tended to favor the debt financing of $7.8 trillion in debt and other liabilities added since 2010. So it was pretty. This is a pretty scathing article regarding debt and the expectation of a crisis, of a financial crisis, and the IMF and the central banks are trying to prepare themselves. After the 2008 crisis, they say a lot of what happened has not been fixed, and so they're and I'm just giving out this information of what's being said. I'm not saying whether I know anything any different than what's being reported, but this is what this article is saying. It's pretty scathing. It says let's start right here. In his opening remarks, Obsterfield identified there has been an increasing debate over the role of the SDRs since the global financial crisis. We in the fund, which is the International Monetary Fund, have been looking more intensively at the issue of whether an enhanced role of the SDRs could improve the functioning of the international monetary system. And then they give some examples. This is kind of what's happening. Here are the 5 most important signals from the World Money Panel, what they could mean for the international monetary system, the IMF, and the future of the dollar. China spars for the SDR market was one. And I'll just go to the other highlights. Number 1. Yeah, went the wrong way. Number 2, liquidity and the central banks. Number 3 is elites signal the blueprint plan. This is some very interesting reading. Number 4, the death of the dollar. And number 5, world money becomes central bank money. And from number 5, world bank becomes central bank money, it kind of summarizes what I've been saying about the commercial banking system. The commercial banking, about the lending and the depositing, and I've said it, this will make my 3rd time to say that the fall guy could possibly be the commercial banking system. They're the ones that could take the fall for what's happening. All right. And so with that being said, let's look at what Christine Lagrade had to say. All right. Let's listen to her. I'll back this up. Yeah, I got to give a shout out to this guy.
Mistakes and gains from corp.
This guy's name is Steve. He sent this out. He tweeted it. He's a pretty sharp guy. He's nailing a lot of stuff about Ripple, and he's nailing a lot of things about just cryptocurrency altogether. This is Christine, like I said earlier. She's talking about the SDRs, which is something I just read in this report. This report right here, which is from the Bullion Vault, the Gold Vault. And so it says the SDRs, the special drawing rights, might have a future interesting life if we include some digital dimensions to it. So Christine is actually talking about making the SDRs a digital asset. Okay, and I agree with Steve, his analysis here. He says, I think the SDRs will become tokenized on blockchain and still be backed by the basket of the CBDC. The only thing that I would add to what Steve has got here is that we don't know regarding the CBDC. They're going to make more than one CBDC, which is makes it a broader concept, number one. And then number two is that we don't know if they're going to select one cryptocurrency or one digital asset to work with exclusively. Hopefully it would be Ripple XRP, and that's all. But you know, you're talking about CBDC. In the United States, for our central bank, we have 7 regions. You know, we have one in Atlanta, one in Boston, one in Philadelphia, one in San Francisco. We have 7 or 8 regions of our country for our central bank. So it seems, I mean, it would be great if they select one cryptocurrency to work as a tokenization for the blockchain for the central bank, but it's probably going to be, my prediction, but I'll hold it. I'm not really sure what they're going to do. However, it has been proposed that they're going to develop 2 different types of digital asset. One as a finance one, and then one as a general purpose one. And if you look at my last video, I have actually a chart that shows this. Okay, so let's hear what you got to say. Let's listen.
The stakes and gains from cooperation are high. None of us wants a hole in the global financial safety net, however much it gets stretched and reshaped. And I'm convinced that we at the IMF have a role to play in cooperation with others. We're not going to be leading that charge. We're going to cooperate. And certainly, the special drawing right, invented a few decades ago, might have a future interesting life if we include a digital dimension and some new technologies to it, particularly at a time when threats to existing networks are in the air.
All right, so there it is. Came out of Christine's mouth that they're going to possibly add a digital dimension to the SDRs because the virtual currencies are threatening fiat currency. So I think we got a long time. I don't want to get out here and get ahead of our skis, but we do know that I call that the big prize. I made a video a long time ago about the SDRs, and that's the big prize. So whoever the IMF, whoever they select as their go-to digital asset, and I'm thinking their go-to digital asset will be Ripple XRP, because we already did read that some of these central banks that are using, that want to use Ripple XRP as their go-to cryptocurrency, well then the special drawing rights is going to be the big prize. I just call it the big prize. And what that all entails, I think there's a lot more than I can tell you, but there's a lot more to this story. All right. So, and then I'm just throwing this in here. I think this is really interesting that Christine also talks to this woman from Russia, and she's asking even Russia, and she almost seems to be putting a little pressure on the lady regarding, on the representative from Russia regarding virtual currency. But what I find, well, let's listen to it.
Your position, plus your fiscal rule, which is, after a good debate between...
Maybe one buffer that we lack, it's enough diversification of our economy. We have no structural buffer because...
it's oil and gas.
Oil and gas reliance.
Oil and gas.
Even if it's declining now, but we still rely on oil and gas.
I think I went back a little bit too far. She's going to
diversify our economy. We should improve the...
They're going to talk virtual currency here in just a second.
Structural buffer in our economy.
All right, right here.
There's one area where Russian experts are quite famous, and that is math, sciences, physics, as well as computer sciences. I'm sure you have a few computer sciences at the bank who are looking at fintech, who are looking at virtual currencies. Is this something that we could envisage going forward, that central banks, including the Central Bank of Russia,
So she's talking about
launches its own virtual currency, as other central banks consider?
I think the central bank's cryptocurrency, it's some remote future. Maybe it can be, but it's too early to think seriously about central bank cryptocurrency. It's my view. But we are very cautious with this phenomenon of cryptocurrencies. I know that many people like cryptocurrency as the reflection of new financial technologies. Indeed, financial technologies are great, and the technology which is the basis of cryptocurrency, distributed ledgers, is very promising technology, but it's not quite mature. But I see more disadvantages in cryptocurrency as for now. It's very volatile asset. Maybe it is more volatile than the most volatile financial assets that we know. And that's why the issue of consumer protections and investment protections is very, very important. It can be used for money laundering. We can see. It's not now the technology is that cannot secure us from cybersecurity. From cyber crimes.
Are you concerned about cybersecurity?
Yeah, of course. Yes, of course. We pay a lot of attention to improve.
Okay, I'll just stop right there. But what they were talking about, it's an hour long. It's really a long video. But they were talking about their cryptocurrencies. Christine asked the Russian representative, was they're going to develop their own cryptocurrency? She's saying not right now, but at the same time, they're developing their own cryptocurrency. Russia's doing just like every other central bank, and they are developing their own cryptocurrency, and you can go and look at some of them. Some of them are ICOs, and they're doing everything. And what's really even hilarious is that she said she's worried about cyber attacks. So you know the political climate about cyber attacks is really really interesting for a Russian representative to be saying they're worried about cyber attacks. I don't want to go there, but that's an interesting thing. So, you know, even Russia right now, their central banks are trying to figure out what central bank cryptocurrency they're actually going to use. Okay? All right, so I want to wrap this up. I just want to share one more thing. I think I'll share that next time. I have something else about Ben Bernanke that I wanted to bring up, something he did about in 2007 before the crisis that is almost kind of familiar to what's going on right now. But I want to share one more thing with you. Is this it? No, that's not it. What was this one? Did we go over this? Why Ripple XRP fits the bill for what the IMF? This was kind of an older article. I think we already went over this. Oh yeah, we did that. Okay. Did we do this? We did Christine. Did we do the SDRs? Yeah, we did the SDRs. Let me know. Oh, here's what I wanted to stop by. This book right here. This is by Peter Ward Harrell, RIP, rest in peace, the Financial Reserve Bank, and it talks about the coming crisis too, 1913 to 2028. He says that's where banks are going to be obsolete, and by commercial banks primarily, and the federal bank. He says from 1913, that's when a Federal Reserve Bank started in 1913. Whoa. It started in 1913, and he says by 2028, they can rest in peace. And you can get some excerpts. I had some, but maybe I'll show some next time from this particular book. And excuse me, I'll try to match them up and make sure they're right, or what's going on now. And I do want to kind of talk about this before I go. Is that I was at the 2018 Event Block World Tour Interstellar Alliance. I went to this focus on the blockchain conference yesterday, Sunday. It was very interesting. There was a lot going on there that I did not know. I took this video, you know, this was before it got all set up and got ready to go. just want to share with you that it was a very heavy Asian population, Chinese population there. They did it in English and in Chinese. And do you know, they really talked a lot about convergence. They talked a lot about governance. A lot of this stuff I'm really not familiar with, and it was Hashgraph. They talked a lot about Hashgraph, the next level of blockchain, and it was really, really interesting. It's something I'm going to have to read up on. They had some breakout seminars. They had quite a few seminars that you could have participated in. I went to one, and let me see if I can get back to it. I went to one of the seminars, and hold on just a moment. I usually tweet out everything. Yeah, follow me on Twitter. Here's our Twitter feed right here. Crypto news and investigative reports at RobTechP, ROBTECH, RobTechP, because I try to tweet out about as much of it as I can. Here's this guy right now, this guy right here, and his name is Tom Throwbridge, and this guy is the CEO. I took this picture while he was being interviewed by the local Chinese media there, but he's really knowledgeable about Hashgraph technology. And like I said, his whole thing was convergence versus governance. And so it was very, very a very good conference for me for my first time going to blockchain conferences. And I want to say this: these conferences are really, really expensive. They are really, really expensive to go to these blockchain conferences. So, but they offer a lot. If you get a chance to go, I'd say make sure you get out to a couple of blockchain conferences so you can start getting a little more tech, get some more the textual, the IT part of it out here. All right. I'll have that SAAS for you, the definition of that next time. I'm with you. But wherever you are, have a great day. If it's nighttime, wherever you are, have a great night. Please subscribe to Crypto News and Investigative Reports. And once again, I'll be going to a couple other blockchain conferences. Please follow me on Twitter. I'll be tweeting out what they're talking about and everything while I'm at the conferences. I'm trying to also get prepared for 2 other blockchain conferences that are coming up here real soon. All right. So thank you for joining us. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.